Hello, my name is Mark Carpio, and I'm a customer success specialist here at Cisco covering AppDynamics. And in today's video, we're going to cover how to enable Log Observer Connect to allow you to connect two of Cisco's most powerful monitoring tools, Splunk and AppDynamics, to get the most value out of your products and to improve your application's observability. Now, first step is going to be creating a service account for AppDynamics through Splunk. You will need to be an admin to create this, and the first thing we're going to do is create a role. So we're going to go into settings and then into roles. From here, we're going to create a new role for a service account. We can name it whatever you want. We'll just call it service account AppD for now. For capabilities, we want two different capabilities. We want edit tokens own, and we want search. But we also want to make sure that our capabilities indexes list all is not selected for security purposes. Then we go into indexes. We want to select all indexes that matter for our specific integration, but we also want to make sure that we're not selecting any internal indexes. In our case, I just want to select all non-internal indexes to be included. Restrictions are optional and you don't need to do them. So for our case, we're going to skip it. Then for resources, for standard search and real-time search for both role and user, we're going to just put 0. And then for role search time window limit, we're going to do custom time for both maximum and earliest search. And for maximum, we're going to do 2,592,000, equivalent of 30 days. And for earliest searchable event, we're going to do 7,776,000, which is the equivalent of 90 days. And then we're going to save our role. The next thing we're going to do is create a user to have this role. And this will be our service account that will connect to AppDynamics. So again, we're going to click New User. We're going to name that user. You don't need a full name and email address since this is a service account, but you can if you want to. You're going to set your password and then make note of that password. And then you want to assign the role that we created. And then make sure you want to uncheck this require password change on first login, since this is a service account and we're taking note of the password. And that's it. That's it for the service account. We now want to configure our universal forwarder for AppDynamics metadata. We do this by first editing or creating an inputs.com file in the Splunk home etc system local directory. Now looking at our configuration at the top in our square brackets, we have our directories or log files that we want to monitor. We have a source type variable, which is necessary for structured logs. Here we're using the source type test, which is a custom data source that we will define in our props configuration later in this video. We also define the index that we want to send our data to. We have a disabled variable, which we set to 0, making this token active. And finally, we have a metadata variable, where we pass our associated application and tier name metadata into our logs. And then to apply the changes, once we are done with our configuration, we need to reset our cloud platform instance. Although if you're using a custom data source, like we are, we want to define those first. Now, if we're using a custom data source, we will want to update the stanza to enable index extractions and enter one of the following formats: CSV, JSON, TSV, PSV, or W3C. Here, I'll be updating my stanza for JSON by adding the following line: index extractions equal JSON, and then you'll have to update or create the data source on the Splunk platform, which I'll show you. Now to add our test custom data source into our Splunk platform, we're going to go into settings, source types. In our case, we're adding a new source type, but you could just be editing it in your case. You want to click a new source type and call it test. For the category, we want to make it for structured logs. And then index extraction, in our case, we're going to use JSON. And in the advanced field, we do want to add a new variable called kv_mode. And we want to set that value into none. And then just hit save, and we should be good to go. Now to add the metadata of request GUID, business transaction ID, and node ID into our Splunk logs, we need to add the flag AppDynamics enable log metadata enrichment to true. At the time of this recording, we also need the agent to be either Java, .NET, or Node.js with a version of at least 24.7. I will include documents in the description for the most recent list of requirements. Now to change this flag, we can either do it at the system level, or we can do it on the controller by going into Application. Go into your specific application you want to make changes to, go into Tier and Nodes, click on a specific node, go into the Agents tab up top, and then go into Configure. And now you can change the setting at the tier, agent, or application level. We're going to do it on the application level here. And what you want to look for is metadata. And you want to see this enable log metadata enrichment, and you want to set this value to true. Once true, then we'll add those specific metadata into our Splunk logs on the AppDynamics agent level. So we created a service account for Splunk. We configured our universal forwarder, including for structured logs. We updated our appd agent to add metadata into our logs. And the next thing we're going to do is configure our integration from appd to Splunk. So we're going to click into Settings and go to Administrator. Then we're going to go into Integrations and then into Splunk. And then from here, we're going to use our service account username that we had before. We're going to enable integrations, and we're going to enter our cloud platform URL, and then we're going to name our connection. And we want to name our convention so we can monitor this connection. Now to finish the appd Splunk integration, the next thing we want to do is allow AppDynamics IPs into Splunk using the allow list. So we're going to go into Settings and then Server Settings. And then we're going to go into the IP allow list. Now to get your SaaS IPs, you do want to use the documentation that I'm including in the description. Now once you have those IPs, we want to add them into Search Head API access and then hit save, and you should be good with your integration. Now to verify that the connection is working, let's go into our AD Commerce application where we enabled our Log Observer Connect. From here, we should see this View Logs in Splunk light up, and now click into that. And then here you go. Here we are on the Splunk side. We see that we indexed our Splunk's demo, and we used the appd application name as a metadata to do this search. Now, as some final notes, we created a service account for Splunk to be used for AppDynamics integration. We updated the universal forwarder to add AppDynamics application and tier metadata into our Splunk logs. We defined the source type in our inputs for structured logs and show you how to do it for a custom source type. We enabled our AppDynamics agents to add request GUID, business transaction ID, and node ID metadata into our Splunk logs. We enabled our AppDynamics controller integration with Splunk, and then we added our AppDynamics IP ranges into Splunk's allow list, also that we can do our Log Observer Connect. Thank you for watching our video on how to enable Log Observer Connect. If you want to keep up to date with latest product releases, including this one, I highly recommend you checking out the link in the video description. And please check out the rest of our customer success videos to broaden your knowledge on AppDynamics.